So today we are talking about budgets. So we'll be about 90 minutes, and we're going to take a 5-minute break about halfway. We are recording this. It'll eventually be posted up to our site. We're having a hard time getting the backlog of videos edited to get put up there, but one day they'll be there. And we're doing webinars most Thursdays. There's a schedule on our site. There's definitely one on the 28th, which is going to be on reporting. And we're not sure yet if we're going to be able to do one next week because I am out of town again. And then if you've got questions, please type them as they come up. I'll either try to answer them in line or at the end if I miss it. And just to confirm, this is not really supposed to be a sales-oriented demo, but we're talking about how to combine resources and rates into budgets that you can put into practical use. We are assuming that you have FileMaker and Studio Suite installed. Either the trial or purchased version, you're registered, you're logged in, and you've done a basic setup of the 7 things you must do. Putting in your company, your contacts, your Studio Suite users, your rooms, your equipment, your blank virgin media inventory, your services, and your rates that go along with all that. And looking at the attendee list, it looks like most of you have seen this next screen already, but I'm going to review it again anyway, which is the Studio Suite hierarchy. The highest level is the production, which could be season of a TV show, a feature film, large multi-phase project. And you can have, of course, many productions going on at once. And within each production, you can have one or more projects. And a project equates to something like an episode of a TV show, a large aspect of a film like pre-production or shooting or editing. And of course, these could be budgets for pre-production, shooting, editing, a reel of a film, or just a one-off job. So a project can obviously contain both the budget and the actual, and of course the difference. And a production can have many projects, and projects can stand by themselves. A production has within it one or more events. And what is an event? That is when we take our resources, which are our rooms, equipment, contact, services, media inventory materials, and combine those with some rates, which is how much you charge, which can be by the day, by the hour, by the week, whatever. And when we mix those all up with a date and a time, that's what we call an event. So an event can also be a budget line item. And when it gets turned into an actual, that's when it would appear on the calendar. And from there, get sent out to your phone and to an invoice eventually. And so we're going to leave that there, and then we're going to jump into Studio Suite. So I will confess that I also just got back from a trip to the Middle East a day or two ago and have been pretty jet lagged and busy. So I'm going to kind of wing this. I haven't had enough time to prepare that I would like. So bear with me if I'm pausing longer than normal. I'll mention that there's 2 modules that budgets can work in, and that is the budgets module and the projects module. And they were developed separately, and their functionality has kind of been morphing into one functionality, but we still have both modules. So I'm going to first talk about budgets because it's intended to be just a standalone budgeting module. And we'll go into here, and it does integrate with the projects, but in a lesser kind of way. So this was intended to replace kind of the Excel spreadsheet budget that you've been making for AICE or AICP style budgets. And as you create one, you can pick which one you want, and you can also create your own templates. So let's do one of those. Actually, before I create a new one, I'm just going to talk about the one that we've got set up here. So obviously, here's our above the line summary, the below the line summary. And these numbers here are summaries of all of the line items below. And these are your typical AICE, AICP style items. And on the budget side, there is an actual and a budget side. You can view local values, which means that we could type in a number here. I'm going to change this from 150 to, all right, we'll do it for 140. And that's going to, well, theoretically recalculate or disappear, as the case may be. Oh, there it is. Took a second. So I changed it to 140. So now we've got 14,000 down there on the bottom. and that gets compared to the actual. So there's a couple new things in StuSuite 10 in this, starting with the ability to pick a rate that you're going to be using for this. And this is where my lack of preparation is going to start showing. We should be able to see a drop down of rates that are applicable to this offline edit for code number 210. So we can go to the rates module. I'm going to go up here. And I'm going to go to edit. Let's see if I've got that in here. Offline editing. I don't. I'm just going to make it. Standard. Regular. And this is where we're going to see this problem of the screen appearing off the top of my window there. Sorry about this. I've got to jump to my bigger resolution just for a second to pull this in. Pull the rate down. While it's down, I'm going to call it offline editing. And save here. And let's put in a charge of a whopping $100 an hour. Isn't that crazy? And a price of 20. And let's say the market rate for this is 340. And the category is services. Okay, so now we've got a rate. And I'm going to pick the item. I had an item on here called editing. Oh, I need to go into AICE, sorry. The category of AICE. Here we go. Here we go. Very slow today. So now that I've got the rate set up, I will go back to my normal screen size. And now I've got my editing rate set up. And the key component here is I want to put in that budget code, which I think we said was 2010. Let's hope. I hope that's right. And then we'll go back to the budgets module. Back to our budget. I'm going to look for 2010. There it is. So now for this budget code, I should have. Oh, I wish I had prepared. Okay, let me go back to rates here. Sorry, everybody. There we go. So pretty sure that I put in the budget code of 2010. Yes, there it is. So that should work. Back to budgets. Go down here to 2010. Very impressive, Joel. Let's try it here. There it is. Okay. So I think I just needed to refresh my screen so all the relationships would tie together. So as I select that, the default rate pops in there. And of course, we can edit it from the default rate. And so let's talk about templates. First, I'm going to create a new budget called AICE Alex. So that's a template that's been created. So I'm going to create that. And so this is, say, Alex's special customized version of an AICE budget. So let's go to the templates tab and talk about that. So if I go find, I can pick the ones that I've got so far. It's going to find all of those items. And I've got a recording budget in here if I want to see what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is manage my templates by clicking the Manage Template button. I'm going to create a new one. I'll call it Joel's Budget. Close that. And I'm going to start off with a AICE budget. And then I'm going to export this to the desktop. Why am I doing that? Because I need to re-import it. I want to keep the original one because this is the stock clean budget that's designed. And then I want to import, and I'm going to call this Joel 2. Joel Budget 2. And I'm going to look for that file. Where was that? That was my desktop. There it is, right there. So I'm going to import this budget, and now it's been flagged as Joel Budget 2. And let's say in my world, I don't do negative cutting. So I'm going to try to get to here. Let's find Joel. Oh, sorry, this import map is showing up off my screen here. So this is allowing me to remap the import if I need to, but I don't need to remap it. So I'm just going to hit import, perform auto enter, yes. So what I've just done there, to be clear, is I exported a standard budget, I re-imported it, and now it's called Joel Budget 2. And this is where I can start to say that, well, we don't do EDL prep in my facility here, and we certainly don't do negative prep or negative cutting. So I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm basically customizing my own template here. What else? We don't do 2D, we only do 3D. And we can add some additional things. So let's say I do something I'm going to call 3170. So I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to create a new line item. I'm going to call it 3170. And I'm going to say that is having lunch. And this is above the line. And then I'm going to sort it again by the code. Actually, I want to put it, where is my 3170? So I want this to be 37.5 in the sort. So see this sort right here? So 37.5. And now I can sort it by this. So this is how you can control where things are appearing in your sort. So I just created this one called 3170. I sorted it at 37.5 in my sort order, and it's called having lunch. And I could set a default rate for that if I wanted to. I'm not going to do it right now. But typically, let's say I take 1 hour for lunch and a quantity of 1. And lunch is usually about 20 bucks because I'm living the high life. So now I have a template, a budget template, Joel Budget 2, that I've customized. I've deleted some items. I've added some items. I've resorted them. And I'll mention this. Some of these have a checkbox that makes them a header, and they're going to behave a little bit differently. In other words, what they're going to do is summarize the items that are below and also show up in bold, so we can see that they're functioning as headers. So now that I've got a template called Joel Budget 2, when I go back to my actual budget page, I can say, okay, we're doing a new one. I want to base it off the template Joel Budget 2, and then I hit New. And that'll churn for a second because it's got to import all of my new, all my customized templates. And if we go to my line items tab, I should be able to go down and find my 3170 right there. Where is it? Not showing up where it's supposed to. I'll have to look into that. Should be showing up where it's supposed to. So for each one of these, we could pick the rate that corresponds. Oh, let me get the rate card in here. So there's my offline editing rate that I created. So maybe I should address rate cards. So in rates, this is a little bit of a side topic, but certainly related. So I'll go to rates for a second. I want to go to detail. Here is a rate. Let's go to the one I just created, actually. So here it is, and we've got rate cards. We can pick normal, internal. You can create as many of these as you like. We can go to the rate cards tab to define them. You can use the ones that come with Student Suite out of the box, or you can create your own. Basically, it's just a way to divide rates up into subsets. So we can have all the rates that we do for normal work, a special set of rates that we do for internal, a special set of rates that we do for external, corporate, commercial, educational, and so on. And because we need to be able to select which rates, or to determine which rates we're going to be using on a particular budget, we need to first also select the rate card. And so the thing that we saw a moment ago, when the rates weren't appearing, is because the rate card wasn't specified. Once the rate card is specified, then we'll see all the appropriate rates. So let me go back down here to my budget. And if I go look at that 2010, now that I've put in a rate card of 0, which equates to all, I'm going to be able to get the drop-down list of rates that correspond to rate card 0. Okay, so then we've got view budget, view actual. When we're in local, this is allowing us to type in values here. So let's just call this whatever. Doing 3 of these. Hard to talk and type at the same time. And let's call this 200, whatever that is. And so we're starting to create our our local budget. And if we were just doing a very simple thing where we weren't going to be using the Student Suite Projects module, we could go in here and say, well, it ended up being 1.5 of those, and the title ended up being 4, because we always go over budget, but we'll give you a break on the price down to 180. So once we've done that, we should be able to find out what the difference is between these things. What do I need? Oh, I need a time. So let's just put 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. Yeah, we need to have all the fields filled in order for these things to calculate. So I figured out my budget. Looks like I've got some other items on there. Not sure where they're coming from. Oh, these are from my template. Am I on the right one? Yeah, I'm on the right one. I guess my template had some values put into it already, but the ones that I just entered are here. So I budgeted for offline 700. It turned into 870, which is a difference of 170, and so on. And so I want to print that out. I go print this, and this is going to look something like your Excel. Print out. And then there's also the export. So the printout does look like a normal one. And then we could also export this, and which is going to get it into an Excel sheet that you can then tweak and modify as needed to make it look, conform to whatever you want. But we'll be able to get all the numbers out. So you might be asking yourself, well, why should I go through all this trouble when it's already nice and clean and easy and fast in Excel? Well, the main difference is because we can view our budget from the perspective of a project that we've added to it. So I'm going to jump over to projects for a second and find one. And this is where my lack of preparation is going to hurt us. So my apologies about that. So I'm just going to pick any old random project called test here. And I'm looking for one called 12396. go back to my budgets module, go to the one that I'm working on, which is my budget. Yep. And I'm going to assign it. I'm going to link it to a project. 1, 2, 3, 9, 6. There's the one called test. So I've now linked my Studio Suite project called test with my budget. And I haven't named the budget yet, so let's call this webinar demo. And what this would enable me to do is if I had any project line items, I'm going to go to the line items tab and just see if coincidentally, this is where if I had prepared, I might have been able to get some actual data in there. Of course, I haven't. Okay, so let's go into sound effects, 4040, and I'm going to go add some things to that project so that we can get some things here. So I'm going to add items. I'm going to go look for my budget code 4040 sound effects. So I'm going to add some Foley, and then I think I've got some other ones in here. Let's try 4020. Red cam. These may not be the real actual correct codes, but I'm just going to get some items in here. So I'm typing in my budget codes from my add item screen, and it's allowing me to get corresponding items within that code. It's fighting me a little bit. There we go, so Studio A. So we should have a bunch of things in the 4,000 range on the actual side of our project. And notice it's popping in the default rate, which is new in Studio Suite 10, and also calculating the time and the quantity based on the hours that I'm using. So I'm going to add those couple items to my project. There they are. They've added some dollars to my project. And if I go back to my budget now, I should be able to see on the project side, I'm going to recalculate this. Down in the 4,000 range. There we go. So I just added a number of different things in the 4,000 range, and we're looking at the local numbers on this budget that I've typed in and printed out and given to the client. And then under the actual, because we clicked the project button, this is showing a summary of all of the project line items that have a corresponding budget code. So, and it's showing me the difference. So my actual stuff is showing up, calculating to be a lot less than what I budgeted. So we're seeing here that I've got 1 day at 1,000 days, 1,000 a day. Let me find one that's under. So yeah, 4010, we budgeted 2,220, and we didn't schedule anything. So I'm going to go back to my budget, back to my project, and add something in 4010. And we're going to see this stuff start to get together. 4010. Oh, looks like Studio A is in there already. Studio A may be showing up in, oh, it depends on the rates, of course. So different rates for Studio A can have different rate codes, different budget codes. So now I've got a conflict. Give me 1 second. I got to go look at my rate to see what rate corresponds to 4010. So I'm going to find 4010. Okay, so the Studio A VO rate for MTV is the one that corresponds to 4010. So I'm going to go back to my project. I'm going to have 2 Studio A's. The default rate for Studio A is oddly Edit Suite hourly. So on my second one, I'm going to put in that VO rate for MTV, which is 185 an hour. And let's bump up the hours a little bit. Let's say this was 12 hours. And the expense was also 12. So now I go back to my budget, and we're going to see this get reflected on that line item for 4010. 4010. Just got to refresh it. Scroll down. 4010 now has 12 hours at 185, and we can see that we're now $60 over budget. So that's kind of a bad demonstration of the budgets module, but I'm hoping that can give you enough. Oh, there's a couple more items here. We can specify in the template which of our template items are eligible for markup. Okay. And then when we create a budget from that, we can also pick the items. It's going to inherit those markup items, which we can, of course, adjust as needed. So everybody's got different items that they call eligible for markup. And then I'm going to put in, I don't know, 20% markup on this. And there's two different ways to calculate this, thanks to Paul Santoro. We can calculate it as a margin or as a markup. And it's a slightly different calculation. And so let's go down to find out where that is. So here is the amount that's eligible for markup based on these checkboxes. Here's the markup percentage. So notice it's on my budget here, it's 1460. I'm calculating it as a margin. If I do it as a markup, it's just a little bit different. It's 1168. So you make a little money if you do it as margin. And most people don't know the difference, including myself a year ago. So markup lets you, if you call it a margin, add it on to there. And notice that it's also going to be changing over on the actual, I believe. Let's see. Yep. So 656 when it's markup and 820 when it's margin. Okay, so now let's suppose we need to filter this for a certain date range. I'm going to put in this week because I know there's, well, I don't know. So I'll put in the first 2 weeks of February, and it'll be filtering the results to only show things that are scheduled in February. So notice the project has zeroed out there because we don't have any events in that range. So let's see if the totals are a little bit different. I guess they're about the same. But if I was doing this more carefully, I could put in a date range and we would see these totals change to only show the summaries of items that are scheduled within the date range that we specify. Anything else that I can talk about here? So bid date, comments. So maybe I should clarify that when we're on the detail, the line items is this smaller area, and you have to scroll because we're showing the whole top of the screen with the summaries and the comments. If you go to the line items tab, it's the exact same data, just laid out differently, where we can see more of the line items, and we're scrolling actual records instead of a portal, so it's a little easier to manage in the line items view. So if you were to print this out or export it to an Excel file, you might want to attach it right here. Why don't we do that just for kicks? So I'm going to export my budget. It's doing it as an Excel. I'll stick it to my desktop. Yes, I want to open that file. So it's going to launch Excel for me in my other screen. I'll bring it up as soon as it's launched. Let me see. Webinar demo, here it is. Okay, so here is the Excel spreadsheet that was exported. So you notice it's not laid out the same way exactly as the ones that you're used to. We don't have control over font bolding and putting in lines and things like that when we're just exporting data. So basically what we're doing is just exporting raw data into an Excel, and then you can do a little customizing here to get it into the format that you like. But you can still see we've got the above line summary right there, which you could kind of color code. Here's our below line summary right there. And then here's our line items, just like that. And then the totals down the bottom. So that's the exported version of that. So what I want to do, I'm going to save that and continue. What I'm going to do is find that in my window here, go to desktop, users. You usually shouldn't have to go this way, but all right. Desktop. And there's my webinar demo. So I'm going to grab that there, and then I go up to my attach an FTP, and then I'm just going to drag this into here. So now I've got that Excel spreadsheet version. If I want to get that open, I can do it right from within that budget. Let me see if there's anything I should cover on templates. So, one other thing I didn't talk about was regarding the sort is actually getting it up into place. So let me sort it by my sort number. So now it's in place. So if I was not sure, maybe I wanted to nudge it up, I can use these little up buttons to move stuff around. And so now my 3170 is here. So it's just a way to be able to kind of better manipulate the positioning of these things. And once I've got them all in the correct place, they should theoretically from that point come in sorted in this order. I'm not sure why that one didn't. But notice in the template that I can also pick the appropriate rate and also put in some kind of default times and quantities. And maybe it's a good idea in your case to leave those empty so you can adjust them as needed. And you know the ones that aren't that don't have any data in them probably need some attention. Anything else? Any questions on the budgets module? Looks like no questions. Okay, so keeping, I'm just going to repeat, this is intended to be mainly a standalone budget module that allows you to view the work that you've done in the budgets module, but viewing the project data from the perspective of the budget. Okay, so let's go to the projects module. So in SuiteSuite 10, one thing that we did is that we added as resources the default AICE and AICP items. And what this can allow you to do is actually build your own template in the projects module. So I'm going to search for ones that we've got set up. And these probably are not existing in your system because we built these and eventually they're going to be part of the shipping version. But now we've got an AICE budget template in the projects module. So I can close up my prep, my offline, my graphics, and you can see that I've got all these items here and the contents of all of them. And I could expand one out. Let's say offline. I'm going to pick a rate. And on the budget side, then I could just say we're going to have 50 hours of offline editing for $5,000. And so let's say I'm going to fill out a bunch of these things and open up my rate filter to look by category. It's going to give me some more options here. I just want to go to all actually so I can pick some things. So just in the name of time, I'm very quickly just going to pick a bunch of random rates here so we can get some values in. You would, of course, spend a little bit more time being careful with this. Ooh, let's do funky. Funky too. And we would adjust our quantities. We're going to bill you for 2 of these, even though it's probably going to cost us 5. So this is one of the differences between the projects module and the budgets module is we can actually start tracking expenses as well. So hit OK on that. And we're starting to assemble what our budget is going to be. And when we see these, I forget what those things are called, the Greek letter for sum, that means that we've got a collapsed item here and that there's stuff inside that. So notice for my offline, I don't have that, but as soon as I collapse it, we're going to get that showing me that the summary of all offline was 5304. And I can collapse that again. So let's say we've printed out, we've emailed a bunch of PDFs to the client. I'll show you how that works. We just go email this. And this is essentially going to create a PDF with prices. So here's all the stuff that I've put together, all my budgets and everything, all my numbers. So it's saving that as a PDF, and I'm sure most of you know that all the printouts are fully customizable. So if you don't like the font or the color or position, you can edit that. Now I've got the option to email this directly out of Studio Suite, either this way or passing it through an email client. So I'm going to send it out of Studio Suite. Actually, I'm going to cancel it. Um, so let's just pretend we've emailed that. And we got a final approval signature back from the client that they accept this as our budget. So I'm going to go ahead and expand everything. And once I've got it expanded, we're going to move it over to the actual and start seeing what actually happened. Oh, and now that I've gone through and taken the trouble to expand these one by one, I'll tell you that you also have the option to collapse them all with one button and expand them all with one button using those there. So we've got our final approval. Here's the budget. We're ready to start. So I'm going to hit this button, send all to actual. One note on that is it will only send to actual what's currently visible right now. So if we send it to actual while it's collapsed, we're only going to get the collapsed items and not the kind of baby items that belong within that. So therefore, it is important to make sure everything's collapsed when you hit send to actual. So are you sure you want to add this to the actual? Yes, I am sure. So because we've got 92 items down there, this will take a little bit because on the actual side, everything that gets there needs to be checked for conflicts. And we haven't really scheduled any specific resources yet. So there's not a lot of real conflict checking to do, but it still takes a bit. It's also got to look up the rates and everything, recalculate all the pricing. Let's see. On the actual side, you want to keep the entered values for quantity and multiplier or clear those to allow for new actual calculations. So why would we do one or the other? So what's going to happen is that we're going to eventually add specific resources underneath these budget items. So if we bring across these actual values that are there, that'll kind of interfere with the new if we bring across these budget values that are there, that's going to interfere with the actual values that we want to put in there. So what we actually want to do is hit clear. So we're going to clear out a budget, and that's going to give us a fresh starting point for the actual in comparison to the budget. And that might make more sense in a minute as soon as we can look at all this stuff. Basically, what we always want to be able to do is see what the difference is between our budget and the actual. So if the actual has the same data as the budget, we're not going to be able to see any difference, which is why we want to clear it on the actual. So notice we end up with a total of 0 because we're now going to start scheduling things. Looks like we've got a total of $4. Where's that coming from? Not sure why that one came in there. So now let's start doing things. So let's negative prep. Oh, we're going to go down to maybe the 4,000 range, which was audio. So we need to do some music. So I'm going to click on my gear tool here, and I'm going to add a child item. And I need a room because we're going to do a music recording on this. And a control room, audio 1. So I've added that. And what I should have done first was put in a date range right here. So I'm going to do that now. So today's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And I'm going to actually take that back. Let me clear out my filter. So now under this 4,000 range, I have under music, I have audio, and I can expand and collapse that. And what I want to do here is put in a date for this. Let's say we're going to do this work today. Save that change. Back down to here. And in addition to audio 1, I'm going to need an engineer, right? So I'm going to add a child item. People. Well, we'll say we need an editor. So we need an editor. We need a music editor for the music, and it's going to add that. Now, because I've got 93 items again, it's running a little bit slow as it tries to add all those things. You know what? I think I didn't actually select it. One more time. Add child item. People, Editor, Paul Michael. So now we'll see Paul Michael up here underneath music, and I think underneath audio also, depending on how it sorts in there. So there he is. And as we're picking these, their default rates are coming in. Looks like Paul Michael doesn't have a default rate, so I'm going to give him one. Let's give him Andy's hourly rate. So now we're starting to see, based on dates and times that we're actually doing this work, all of this math start to come into play here. So need to exit out of there, come back in. Cancel. Save. So now we can see these items coming in there. And I guess we want to go look at the calendar. So I'm going to go back to projects. And we can start to see how this is popping up. So what I'm going to do is collapse my music row and my audio. And I can see that for all of my audio, I've got 1020. And if I go into my budget, and I'm also going to collapse audio on the budget side. What I'm now going to do is go look at the difference. And notice on the budget, I didn't budget any audio. So now if I go down on my, looking at my difference view here, I can see that I've got a rate difference because I didn't have any on the budget side, and that I've got a difference of this much, 4,310, because I didn't budget any. Here's the actual. And then if I collapse the audio, we can see what the total difference is, $1,020 in audio. So there's 1,020 right there. I feel like I'm doing a poor job here, everybody. Sorry about that, but hopefully you're seeing the forest through my trees. What I've done, just to repeat and confirm, is I've added some physical resources, a room and a person, under the item called music. And because I didn't have any in the budget, we're showing that we have a difference there. So maybe what I should have done that would be better, had I practiced, is add some real things under offline edit. So notice that we have 0 here. So let's book something underneath offline edit. I'm going to add a child item. Let's say we need a room. We need a graphics room. Also Studio A. And let's add another one. We need some equipment. Let's say we need a digital audio workstation. So I'm on my difference view. Oh, it is allowing me to pick my rates. Okay, so here is some different rates that I can pick. I guess it's not allowing me to. So there's my Studio A. It popped it in there. Oh, it put in the default rate of Studio A included, which we don't want to do. We want a expensive rate. And as long as I put in a start date, it'll start calculating actual hours. And let's say this is going to be maybe a multi-day project. I'm going to send this out to there. So now it's figuring out the hours, total hours, because we're spanning multiple days there. Maybe I want to go to more of like a daily rate if I've got one set up. Let's see, I do. Looks like it's still actually calculating by the hour. All right, let's go with an hourly rate. And I can still collapse my offline and see what my total is. And if I go to my difference view on offline, we're going to see some difference. I do. Okay, so there's budget. So when I collapse it, it disappears. Offline, 50, 105,000. Collapse this. Okay, so that's working. So we can see it's combining those two. That we can see that we're over 5,000 on the DigiDesign, but we're under. Wait, the other way around. We're under 5,000 on the actual on the DigiDesign, but we're over 1620. And when we add those together, that's 3380. So we can see how that's collapsing on the different side. So there's this link assign tab. What the heck is that? So in this case, we had kind of a perfect one-to-one transfer from the budget to the actual. We had all of our budget items, and then we hit send to actual, and then all those exact same items showed up on the budget side. Sometimes it's not always that poetic, and you're building a budget, and then halfway through the project, you have to revise the budget and add more things, and then send just those. And then somehow in the process, things might get disconnected from one another. But what's happening here essentially is that each, on the right side, we're looking at the actual items. On the left side, we're looking at the budget items. And if we ever need to reconnect or reassign them, we can click on this, and this is going to show us all of the items that we've got and which budget item we want to assign to this actual item. Cancel. So let's say what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go add a random new actual item. I'm going to go add items, and let's say we need, I don't know, some DVDs. DVD 1 to 10. And I think this is also set up. I'm going to hover and see. Okay, I used to think, or I thought that this previously had some other items that came along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my actual. And because I just added this on the actual without using my gear tool hierarchically to say add child item to the parent item, it doesn't have any, it doesn't know what budget item it belongs to. So if I go down here, it's going to be at the very bottom. And if I go to my link assign on the very bottom, I need to figure out, well, what budget item does this go along to? So we can fix that. And I'm just going to randomly say that it belongs to 41690, which is mix and sound something. So I'm going to click on that. ACE, something in prep. I guess it's the one at 1030. 46183. 41683. Okay, so I'd assigned it to that one. I'm trying to get it to something different. What I'm looking for is offline edit. Okay, we're going to try to put it to offline edit, which is 41692. Offline. And I guess it's just giving me a time slot there. So I guess it's only letting me put it to the actual header. Compared to the budget. I'm a little confused with that myself. And I wrote this. Jeez. So anyway, what we're supposed to be able to do there is, pick which budget line item this is corresponding to. I might have to look into that a little bit. Hopefully you won't need to do too much of that because with the gear tool, it's very easy to get them assigned properly. So if I'm adding something underneath dailies, I can just get right to the person that's going to be doing it. Let's say Malcolm is going to be working on dailies along with Dana, and this makes it very easy to book things properly from the get-go, like that. There's Malcolm underneath dailies. Let's see. So far, I still don't have any questions from anybody, so I'm going to try to see if I can think of anything else. Well, we all know that when we're creating a budget, there's what we're going to charge, and there's how much it's costing us. So of course, Student Suite can track that, and you can define within your rates what the expense is, and that's what we're looking at here. So we can see on what I've added so far on my budget expense, it was $142. Wouldn't it be great if we could get things done for $142? And then over on my actual, the expense was $691, and that means that the difference between the expense that we thought it was going to be versus the actual is 630, and that's a 1,000% increase in our expenses. So it's time to go yell at somebody for doing a bad job on the estimate there. And there's also something called market rate that I'll mention. So if I go over to my difference view, when I pull this out, here's our budget, here's our actual, here's the difference. Within each rate, you can specify what a market rate would be. And so I don't have a lot of data filled in there, but we can see that for this DigiDesign, we budgeted $100. The actual was also $100, but we didn't do any of it. And then the market rate is $340. So our quote is much lower. I'm going to put in a charge here. Let's say we had 3 of these. Go back to my difference view again under the Pro Tools. Oh, you know what I need to do is I need to do this on the actual view. Three. Okay, so now we'll have some data there. Go down. So DigiDesign, we budgeted 50 hours at 100. We ended up using 3 at 100. So we were 47 hours less than we thought, for a total of $4,700 less than we thought. But if we did the 3 hours at $340, which is the market rate, what everybody else is charging, 3 times 340 equals 1,020. So that's how the market rate works. And when you print this out, I think it will include the market rate. Let's check. If it doesn't include it on this printout, it will be on another. Yeah, so there it is right there. There's the 340 that we talked about. So the big thing here is the gear tool, because it allows you to assign things underneath the budget items, or headers, if you will, that they belong to. And then from there, that allows you to collapse everything underneath that, and get essentially kind of that above the line, below the line type of printout where we're going to see all the dollars and how they lay out underneath it. Budget, actual, we're tracking expenses, profit loss, budgeted profit loss. So let's look at this. If I look at my budgeted profit loss, we thought we were going to make 5,273, or a profit margin of 98. And then over on the actual, let's see how close to reality this is. Yeah, we actually made 2,193, or a difference of $3,000 less than we thought. Isn't it always the case? Or we missed our profit estimate by minus 58%. I think that's about all I've got. I don't know if the questions are not working or if nobody's listening, or maybe everybody understands everything, which would be great. But that's basically the 2 different ways that we can create budgets in Studio Suite. To recap, the budgets module, which is kind of a replacement for your Excel sheet, that can view Studio Suite project line items summarized, and then new in Studio Suite 10, where we've built those kinds of AIC, E, and P items into the projects module, which you can then assemble into an AIC E or AICP style budget, and then probably at some point in the near future we'll be shipping with some of these already there. But in the meantime, you could basically just create a new project and start adding them yourself, which is probably more useful because you probably aren't doing negative editing and things like that these old budgets still have. And then once you've got that, flag it as a template. In fact, let's do that. So let's say this is my template where I'm going to go and start using this as a starting point for all of my projects. So AICE budget template, I've checked my template checkbox. I'll hit new from template. I could also hit duplicate, but if I scroll down, we're going to find the, let me just search for something called template here. So there it is. I could also have typed in the project number or just AICE, it would still find it. So let's go for that. And then we'll call this Valentine. Now this is going to take a while because it's doing with events, and we've got 92 times 90 times 2. And let's start this on 18. So it's got to duplicate all those things. And as I said before, when we duplicate that many things, it takes a bit. It's checking for conflicts, looking at prices, yada, yada, yada. But what we'll have here then is a starting point for our new thing underneath which we can start actual schedules of physical resources, rooms, equipment, people, and other services that we provide. Let's see. I guess we should wait until this finishes. Well, while that's finishing, I will mention that. Let me go into here. Our next webinar will be definitely Thursday the 28th, which is in 2 weeks, covering reporting. And we may have one next week if Byron is able to do it. We haven't got the schedule confirmed on that or what it will be yet. It might be on, I don't know what it'll be on, but stand by for that. And theoretically, we're supposed to be getting some surveys sent out after these webinars, and they don't seem to have been going. But if you do get one, please just respond and say that it was a fantastic webinar. And this is still processing. Or tell us anything you don't like it's too long, or the guy's obviously not prepared. Don't waste our time. Okay, so here is our AICE budget template Valentine's Day. This is the one I just created that uses as its starting point all of the things that we had in our template. And that's, I guess, where it really all comes together. You can flag any project as a template and then reuse it over and over, reuse that structure. And then you can use these little buttons here to expand and collapse all the things in a budget to kind of replicate that above the line, below the line deal. With that, I'm going to end it. I don't see any questions yet. So thanks very much. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And maybe some of you will see Byron in 1 week if we can get that together. Thanks again. Talk soon.